Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 282. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I learned a lot about myself through my writing. This is going to be a fun one today, so let's get to it. So, the journey of writing for me has been so fulfilling, but I've surely learned a lot about myself through writing, right? I've learned that I care about so many social issues that impact and affect us in today's world. And I knew I wanted to write about important things that are going on around us, but didn't know what I was capable of writing. From writing about men's issues, mental health, women's issues, America, gun control, violence, I've been able to write and create characters that have a little bit of me in them. A lot of characters I've created and written about have surprised me, and I'm thankful to God that He gives me the ability to write these things. And I've been able to dig deep and write characters that are relatable to what's going on in life. Robert, who is a man in his 20s who is struggling to find himself. Brenda, who becomes a mom and deals with postpartum depression. Derek, who is worried about the world, and how it could potentially end because of what's going on every day. Those are just a few characters that I think of off the top of my head that I've written about. And I've learned how deep my mind thinks and how I can turn an idea into a book. And I've always known my mind works differently than everyone else, but I didn't think that it can turn into stories and books and audiobooks and podcasts and even a clothing line, right? I'm constantly learning, evolving, growing, and challenging myself to write content that's not being discussed or talked about. And social issues are surely being written and talked about daily, but not in the way that I'm writing about it. That becomes more fulfilling to me. And I feel that my stories can impact people and change the world. And learning about yourself when you have a gift and talent, well, it's really fun, trust me. Just know that years ago, I was focused on making it in sports and doing something in that field. And now I'm a writer and author. And I'm so thankful that I headed down this path because it's pretty much what I've been been meaning to, really explore. And now I'm realizing this is what I've been, meant to do for so long. I didn't, delve into writing books until I was 32, and now I'm 40. So, I wonder sometimes if I would have been able to write the content that I write now, currently, about 10 to 15 years ago. And when I thought about it, my answer was no. Because in my 20s, I was really trying to figure myself out. And I didn't see the world the way I see it now. And there were always things that concerned me. And I always watched crime TV shows when I was younger, and I still do now. I watch Law and Order. I watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit. That's one of my favorite shows of all time. I watch Law and Order Criminal Intent. I watch 911. I watch Investigation Discovery Channel. Man, I watch A&E. I'm into a lot of the police detective shows and why crimes happen the way they do and what goes on in the mind of a serial killer. And, I wonder why domestic violence happens, and I read articles and I get an understanding of what goes on in a person's mind and why they stay in situations that are no good for them or whatever the case is, right? And I've come across, the whole human trafficking ordeal, and that can consist of so many different elements, not just in a, certain way. I try to keep this podcast as clean as possible. So I'm learning to value what I'm great at. And as I'm recording this, it's like scary to know how many book ideas I really have. I will say there's a good 25 to 30 book ideas that I have. Now, will they all turn into books? Probably not, but as time goes on, I start to learn about myself more and more. The Kids with Guns series, when I really stepped up to the plate of what goes on with gun violence and school shootings and things of that nature, like, I knew I was going to write about it, but I didn't think I was going to write a 5-book series on it, and I didn't think I was going to have like over 20 characters in a book series, right? Who would have thought? But it turned into a great book series, and I'm thankful I wrote that. I may, tackle it a little bit more. Race and I Woke Up a Black Man, that garners attention a lot. The book cover itself and like what's on the front of it, people look and go, oh, okay, all right. So I can truthfully say that I'm thankful that I embraced my gift and my talent, and that I didn't, waste it. I've been writing poetry since I was 13. So, when you're in your 30s, it's like, darn, maybe I should have been doing this a little bit more when the opportunities were there. But that's okay. Sometimes we have to, learn, about ourselves and the world and what goes on in the sports industry and things of that nature. You start seeing it for what it is. It's a lot of politics and BS with pretty much anything that goes on in the corporate world, but it's way more intense than people think it is. And now in today's world, it's you build your audience, and then these networks come looking for you, like ESPN and Fox Sports and things of that nature. So it's no longer like they take a shot or they take a chance, or you're like a news reporter and then all of a sudden it's, oh, well, they're a great writer, let's see if they're great on TV, right? So there aren't many Stephen A. Smiths, Mike Wilbons, Tony Kornheisers, Frank Isolas, things like that. So that's my point. What I want to tell you guys is writing is very challenging. So when you're challenging yourself to write about social issues, you got to make sure like you really pack a punch. You really got to make sure you tell a story that is relatable, is believable, and will start and spark conversations. And that's my goal with pretty much every book I've written. I don't start too many of my books slow or dragging or anything like that. I start my stories with a punch. It's quick, and it's, oh, okay, so this is how this story is going to go, and all right, now I got to be prepared for it. I've learned over the years through listening to people and people who read books and things of that nature that people don't like to read 2 to 3 chapters before a book gets going. So the only book I would say that I wrote that starts that way is The Struggles and Growth of a Man Part 1. And that's because it's my first book and I was kind of feeling my way through all of it. But pretty much the rest of my books, they pack a punch. It's pow, punch you in your chest. Hey, this is what it is. Get ready for the ride. And it's going to be one of those uncomfortable roller coaster rides. So that's why I do what I do. And if you want to be a writer, research, learn, read other people's books, like really study and hone your craft. And that's what I do. I read a lot of other people's books, how they write, how they articulate, how they express themselves. Right now, I am currently reading a book that's going to help me in writing a book series that I'm going to be writing next year for 2025. You see how my brain works? That is something that I never thought I had in me, but I read way more now in the past, I would say 5 years than I ever have in my life. It's not that I didn't enjoy reading, it's that I needed to find the books that are going to keep me going and allow me to grow as a writer. There's always room for growth, there's always room for improvement, and that is my goal at all times. So whatever you're great at, study others, learn from others, incorporate what they do. Don't necessarily copy. I don't copy people because I write in a prose format, so people would never have to worry about me copying them. But learn from others, and another thing with me is I develop a lot of my story ideas from watching the world, seeing what's going on, reading books, reading articles, meeting people, listening to their stories, they talking about their life, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. I get ideas from TikTok videos, YouTube videos, Instagram videos, you name it, it comes to me. Okay, that sounds like a pretty good book idea. Okay, I'm gonna type this in my notes in my phone, and have a brief synopsis or idea of what I want it to be or could potentially be, and then if it turns into a book, it does. So you never know. If you meet a writer, you meet an author, and you're talking with them, always know that their mind is chugging away, and there's a good chance that something you say can spark an idea and turn it into a book. All right, guys. I'm thankful that I was able to share, my story, and my journey, as a writer and author with you today, and pretty much for the past 3 years. I'm very thankful for you, the listener, and everyone who has been part of my journey. There's a lot more great content coming, but sadly, there will be no podcast next week. I do need to focus on some other projects. I need, some time to do some other things. So there will be content coming the following week. So no podcast next week, but I will be returning on August 21st. So have a good weekend, everyone. TheAquariumMindPodcast.com is the website. My podcasts are pretty much everywhere. So if you listen on those platforms, great. Keep doing it. Share, please. I appreciate you and you listening to my podcast. But you share it, goes a long way. All right, y'all. Have a good weekend, everyone. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.